How's it looking?
Are you ready?
I am ready. Welcome to Women in STEM, sponsored by Ag Tools and August Edge, and presented by NCW Tech Alliance, Apple STEM Network, and the Numerica Performing Arts Center. My name is Jenny Rojanasatian, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director for NCW Tech Alliance. We're a 501c3 passionate about connecting people and technology resources. We offer year-round programs, events, and resources across 6 counties in North Central Washington. I want to encourage you to connect with our nonprofit. Whether you're in need of technology resources and education, or an entrepreneur, or a techie yourself, there's a place for everyone at our nonprofit. At NCW Tech Alliance, we offer regular entrepreneurial panel series. And with today being Women and Girls in Science, we thought we would spin on our normal panel and feature some incredible local women in STEM. You're going to learn about their journey, their career, and pathways in their field. I want to thank supporting partners, Davis Furniture and Skeeter Buggins Productions, for helping us put on today's event. And now I want to introduce Star Montgomery from August Edge.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Women in STEM Entrepreneur Panel. I'm Star Montgomery from August Edge, and I am excited to be here in support of these amazing women we have here today. We at August Edge are proud to support this event because we believe that women in leadership roles continue to prove that when they lead, they bring transformative changes to entire communities. During today's panel, we encourage you to submit any questions you have for our panelists by visiting mendy.com using the code provided. And without further ado, let's kick things off and welcome our moderator, Dr. Sue Kane.
Hello. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be our moderator today as I support our regional STEM network alongside Jenny Rojanasatian, and was asked to moderate today. I got really excited. It's a lot of fun to have a conversation with brilliant women and learn a little bit about their journey and the things that they're doing to make tomorrow a little bit brighter. And with that, I'm going to give our panelists an opportunity to introduce ourselves. We'll just kind of go down the line here, and I'll have you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you are currently working on.
All right. So my name is Awanti Haevage, and I grew up in Sri Lanka. I was born and raised in Sri Lanka, and I migrated to the United States for my graduate studies, and I did my PhD on physical chemistry at University of Nevada, Reno, and that is the institute that I realized that I wanted to choose teaching as my career opposed to the research. It's just like I felt like I'm more comfortable teaching compared to doing research in the lab. So I was applying for the jobs, and I got the job here at the Wenatchee Valley College. So we moved to Wenatchee, and I've been teaching for 7 years at the institute here at the Wenatchee Valley College, and I'm mainly teaching general chemistry for the undergraduate students. So for the chemistry major, for the science majors, and as well as for the non-majors.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bindu Nayak. I am an endocrinologist. I practice at Confluence Health here in Wenatchee. I've been practicing here for the last 12 years. I did my medical school training in New Orleans at Louisiana State University and Georgetown University Medical Center for endocrinology training, and am enjoying clinical practice here in Wenatchee now. I also co-founded and co-chaired the Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council at Confluence Health.
Great. Hi, I'm Laura Levine. I'm the chair of the Washington State University Department of Entomology. I've been there for 20 years. I'm originally from South Carolina, and I have a biology major, a chemistry minor, a biology master, zoology, and then I became interested in entomology during my PhD work, which I completed at the University of Kentucky. And I joined Washington State University in 2001, and as an assistant professor, I have a research lab, I get to teach, And I also get to mentor and serve students. And I've also done some extension work. So I really love my career as an entomologist, as a biologist. And I'm a mother, and I'm a wife to a veteran. And I just really glad to be here. I'm based in Pullman, but I was over at Washington State University Tree Fruit Research and Extension Center visiting with my entomologist there just yesterday. So it's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks for being here. And I think it's really neat, and we always start these sorts of opportunities by introducing ourselves and our credentials, and they always sound like very, very formal, nice, neat career journeys and career paths. And part of my goals for today, for the folks that are listening, is to show them that you are actually humans, you are mothers, you are real, and you have multiple dimensions. So we have a few questions that I'm going to ask that are more aimed at that, and this first one is in that space for sure. And so this is, let's assume that you have to get some things done, and you're going to put on some music to get things done. Whether you are cleaning your house or doing some lab work or doing some grading, what's your go-to song to get things done? We don't have to go round robin either. Yeah, some of us need more time to think about it.
Well, I can go for it first. I like Taylor Swift a lot. I have to admit, I like her most recent album, Folklore, probably the best. So that's kind of what I do. And then if I need to concentrate, Piano Guys.
I love Piano Guys and Taylor Swift. These are great.
Well, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon because I have a 13-year-old daughter, and her first concert was Taylor Swift. So, of course, I got to go, and I was completely inundated it. And I'm very partial to the song The Man right now. It's got a great feminist vibe. It really gets my blood going. So it helps sell The Man, I guess.
So for me, I like my home country music mostly, like when I need to calm down, yes, and I'm trying to get, so I am a mom too, so I have a 6-year-old son, and we are trying to get him familiar with the culture back home, so we listen to those songs in the cars and stuff. But for me, I think Destiny's Child was the group, like because I'm old, so it's like when I've been, those times, that's like, I'm so sad that they broke up, like everybody went on their own ways, but Beyonce is still here, so it's all good.
I love this, that we've found some common themes here of these strong music women voices as well, so this is good. Okay, so if I take this back to this idea of the work that you're currently leading, and it strikes me just, fields like entomology and insects, or fields like endocrinology and chemistry, these are a lot of things that are conceptual. I mean, obviously bugs are, not as conceptual, but some of the work that you lead, what inspires you? What kind of makes you really curious about these fields that you're in? And again, anyone can answer this question.
Okay, so they alternate me. So for me, I don't do any research. So currently all of my work is teaching. So for me, what excites me is my students in the classroom. Like for me, that's a great part. I did not like when we went to online, because I missed that portion of how I get energized. I get energized when I'm in front of the classroom, like in front of the students. So for me, that was the main thing. The main thing. And that motivates me. And then the questions they ask, I wait until they ask a question, or I ask a question, I wait. I could wait 15 minutes until one of them say something, and they know that, so they would at least try to ask a question, or attempt to ask a question, or answer the question that I ask. And because for me, I think it's the conversations, the human conversations are the ones that matters the most in terms of learning. So it's that. It's being in that classroom, the students, is the one that motivates me the most, the questions that they ask. Yeah.
That resonates with me and so many of our educators, that you missed your students in 3D, and I totally understand that. But there's this curiosity about how they're going to unfold that content.
Yes.
And where they're going to wonder and be excited, that educators everywhere will resonate with. Yeah. How about Dr. Nayak, what inspires you?
Well, I would say what inspires me every day is that I can make a difference in the lives of my patients. So in endocrinology, I treat a lot of patients with type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. And living with diabetes is hard. Managing hypoglycemia, low blood sugars and high blood sugars is a minute-to-minute struggle for people with diabetes. So I really enjoy being able to provide the best medications for each individual and the latest diabetes technology, and that can be life-changing. And seeing that really inspires me to do what I do every day. I also care about justice, especially equitable healthcare outcomes. So seeing injustice or health disparities drives me to want to find a solution to the problem, especially in our community.
I appreciate that too. I think so many folks go into the field of medicine with that heart for wanting to make things better and being able to use the field that you're in to advocate for social change as well as health and the social determinants of health. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I would say that for me, what inspires me are all of the things making a difference, inspiring students, helping support students, but also one of the reasons that I got into science is because I love detective stories. From Encyclopedia Brown when I was in elementary school, I just love solving problems, and I really like to know how things work. And as an entomologist, my particular area, I'm really mechanistic and focused on understanding mechanisms. And so in one aspect of my research, I partner with other scientists and we work on resistance mechanisms, genetic resistance mechanisms to pesticides and how we can kill pests and do so in a sustainable way. And so that's been a very important part of my recent work. And then I also do discovery research where you're not sure what the impact on society might be, but because you don't know, you can do this work. For example, a large part of my program has been based on insulin signaling pathway, which is obviously disrupted in diabetes, but in beetles, and how that affects body size and body growth and the growth of these really large weapons in horned beetles and stag beetle mandibles. And those animals use those for reproduction and success. So I've really inspired just by problem solving. And then my role as an administrator, it's the same. You're solving problems every day and impacting people's lives. And as a first-generation college student, I love higher education. It's really inspiring for me to sort of give back in that arena because I have a wonderful life and a wonderful career, and I totally owe that to education. So I love being in higher ed for that reason.
Yeah, that's a fascinating connection there, just even around the insulin. And I love this kind of conversation because it's amazing to me how two seemingly maybe unrelated fields, and then all of a sudden you have this common body of work. I love it. So the other sort of curious part about the fields that you are in is that you are all three in fields where women are underrepresented in the professional sphere. And I wonder if that's something that you are cognizant about, like in a way that it like impacts the way you do what you do, or is it something that you've really kind of gotten used to and you don't notice as much? How does that lack of representation impact the way that you do your work?
I'll take this one first, if that's okay. So Sue, that's a great question, and I would say that we have a lot of work to do, and things are much better than when I was an undergraduate or when I was in high school. A lot of times in the United States, education is based on a merit-based process, and so you don't actually feel any discrimination as a woman in STEM until you hit, sometimes it's in the undergraduate, junior and senior level, sometimes it's not until graduate school, sometimes it's not until you're actually in your first job. And it's definitely something that you should be aware of, something that you should take into consideration, but it shouldn't stop you from pursuing your dream. There are definitely things that you can do, mentors that you can have, situations where you find yourself wondering what you should do, but you shouldn't give up if it's what you really love to do. Many of us have been successful. Many of us have been discriminated against either in small ways or in large ways, but it never stopped me. And I continue, part of my goal is to make entomology and the life sciences a more welcoming and inclusive place for women. So I've been involved in women's issues in STEM since I was in graduate school, since I woke up to it, actually, because it never occurred to me as an undergraduate. It never occurred to me that all my professors were men. I went to a symposium, and it was specifically focused on evolutionary biology and feminism, and I was sort of like, what is this? And every moment of that symposium, my brain was just sparking, and I walked out of there realizing that I myself had a lot of male chauvinism, and that I myself carried some very interesting perspectives that I really needed to unpack and think about. And so my whole career is dedicated to, and I have some administrative roles, my whole career is dedicated to making it better for women in STEM.
I love that you do this, and I've seen you speak, and you do call attention to, the opportunities for young women, and really kind of open up their eyes and the possibility, and really empower young women. I remember a talk you gave a few years ago, and being able to show the past chairs in the department, and you being the first woman chair in the department was a really impactful moment for many of the young graduate students that were sitting around me. So I've seen that effect. It's pretty exciting. How about you, Dr. Nayak?
I would say that in medicine, it's definitely there's more women now than there were decades ago. So that is good progress. And endocrinology actually is predominantly women now.
Really?
And that actually kind of leads into probably one of the reasons why I chose it, because when we're younger, we always look for role models. And I remember when I did my endocrinology rotation, I found some fabulous, amazing women physicians who were great role models, and I could see myself becoming an endocrinologist, probably partly because of that. And I also love the field. But definitely as a woman in science, people can underestimate you. So it's important to stay strong and be true to yourself. Yeah.
Are there women in medicine might experience system barriers in terms of being able to have the time that you want for for family or for specialty, or like did the fact that you're a woman pursuing a career in endocrinology, it didn't get impacted by the I guess I'm struggling with a word here, which is uncharacteristic, but I'm wondering how that pathway was influenced by, or maybe it wasn't influenced by the fact that
I think balancing family and career is always a struggle for all of us. But with endocrinology, it is mainly an outpatient practice, so it's easier probably to manage than other fields of medicine that have more call, but it's always a struggle, I think. But it is very doable. So I think it's something that we all think about every day.
That's really encouraging. Awanti, how about you?
So as both of them were telling, I think the representation matters. Like if you remember, like when I was hired at Wenatchee Valley College, I was the only female science faculty that was there, the full-time science faculty. And I had a big shoe to fill in terms of expectations from others, because the professor who was retiring, I was hired for that, he's been there for like 29, 30 years. So everybody was like giving me this like talks, that's not how this person used to do things. So it was like a bigger challenge, like it's even from the students, because this is a small town, so the students get used to the professor, and then they were like, okay, this is what they used to do earlier. And then when I was trying for the changes, it was always like, oh, I heard like this person didn't do that. I was like, and I had to like tell that I'm not that person. I am a different person, and I am doing this, I'm teaching this in a way that I would think is beneficial for the students. So it's always like, I think I heard stories later, like the female students really liked having another female science faculty at the college because they could see that, okay, so that means that we can do science as well. And I think it's a mind change here in US. I did not experience this, what I'm going to say right now, when I was growing up. I think here, like, there's this misconcept that the women cannot do science. Like, I felt like there were students in my intro to chem class who wants to be nurses or something else. They just need chemistry for that one part. And then they were like, well, it's going to be challenging. I don't want to pursue that. And it's always telling them that anywhere you go, there will be challenges. But sometimes it's worthwhile, the challenges, that you go to a field that you really like, that you can do better. I had to like sometimes drag some students from nursing. I'm like, no, you need to take 161 and see whether you like it before you decide that it's just one class. And I was able to change their pathways a little just by telling them that. And I think identifying that and seeing that there are female in the science field is really important.
I think that's so special. Those explicit interactions that you have with students where you tell them, you might have some potential to go this direction. I've experienced those, and that's really special. But I also think it's really, you speak like it's not as a big deal as it was to watch courage of coming into a new space and creating something new, whether you're a department chair for the first time or you're a faculty coming in after 25 years of the same guy. There's courage in those moments, and in implicit ways, that representation matters too. You're making it possible where, for your students. That's pretty remarkable, actually. All right, so I'm going to switch our gears just a little bit and kind of lighten things up a bit as well. So I have another one of those quick get-to-know-you-as-humans questions, right? So tell me about an app or a technology that you can't believe you ever lived without.
Well, I can think of a couple apps. The Starbucks app for getting my coffee on the way to work in the most efficient way possible has helped me tremendously. And the Chipotle app to pick up dinner when I don't have time to cook on the way home from work.
I've learned something new. I didn't even know they had an app.
I'm addicted to Outlook. So the Outlook email, Outlook calendar, I'm totally addicted to it. Microsoft Teams, I don't know how I ever functioned. And also, I had a funny conversation with my in-laws recently where they barely use their smartphone. And they were like, we've never used the Maps app on our smartphone. And I honestly, my jaw dropped and I said, how do you get around? How quickly we've become adapted to these things. I was stunned.
I understand that, yeah.
I remember like using the maps, the Google Maps first time was really fascinating. Oh, I don't really need to I used to have the AAA membership where I can go and grab all of those paper maps when we are doing the road trips. And then now you just plug into your phone and then it'll let you know where to go. But you have to be a little careful because sometimes Google Maps just let you go through these crazy roads. But for me, I don't really like to say this out loud too, but the Zoom, I hated the Zoom when I first started it because I'm I cannot see their faces or anything. But then I realized right now, if they have a question and if they are emailing me and they want to know okay, how do we approach this? I realized that doing a little video, recording it, and then sending it out is much more effective than actually typing an email trying to explain things step by step. I got these little drawing tablets that you can plug into your computer, so I can write using it as a whiteboard, so I can give them the hints. Okay, this is how you start, and you can continue it from there, something like that. Yeah.
It's so fascinating, right? So the pandemic changed so much of what we do, and in those moments of changing the function or the use or the need, there's this innovation that happens. And I'm curious about what will come out in the next 10 years, just from those kinds of I found a new utility for this thing. So if I'm thinking about that headspace of innovation, and you actually all have opportunities to work with students, although in different capacities, but how do we help nurture that sense of innovation and that sense of curiosity? And when your students come to you, maybe with, baby ideas, what do you do to help them nurture those kinds of ideas?
So I would say that you have to be positive. You want to connect them to someone that can help them explore their idea, someone that they would be comfortable with. You want to follow up. You want to let them know that their idea is really interesting. Being positive is part of the whole process. I think this whole idea in the US, there's this big cultural phenomenon that chemistry and math are for nerds, and if you don't want to be a nerd, then you're not going to be good at those. So I think that's really crazy, because chemistry and math are so fascinating that they should be for everyone. They shouldn't just be for like a subset of people. And also they shouldn't be hard. They should be accessible and interesting and exciting. And students need to know that their brains are like muscles, that they can grow them. And that they can practice the things. And so I think just being positive and nurturing is half the battle. And a lot of times students will be, because professors are busy and they're running around thinking of things, and a student might come in with an idea, and a professor might actually squelch an idea by accident because they didn't notice that the student was being vulnerable with them, or that needed some encouragement. And even if it's a crazy idea, who are you to tell them that this isn't an exciting idea? So I think that has to be that's the situation where I see being encouraging, supportive, and even just calling it out. Wow, I've never heard of anything like that. Just your tone of voice can nurture the student and inspire them to pursue it. And it might peter out, and it might turn into something that you just can't even predict.
I would imagine, Dr. Haevage, that you have students that come in that believe that they cannot do chemistry.
Yes.
How do you get them to really kind of embrace this?
It's always like that. It's like I think for them to come to you is sometimes a big step for them, like to take that step. Like you tell that there's office hours, and then we have been just sitting in the office hours without anybody showing up for some time. And it's just like, sometimes it's just like going through the class and just asking sometimes, like, how are you doing? And it's just like having that conversation. So when a student really comes to you with a question like that, I don't know, it's more about what can I do with chemistry? It's about helping them understand that chemistry is everywhere. Like you are getting connected to chemistry everywhere. And then, like we were talking about the mask, and then they were asking about what's this charcoal mask means? They're talking about activated charcoal. How does the activated charcoal works? Why do we and then I was like, well, if you get food poisoning, or if you accidentally drank something, that's what they do at the ER. They let you, I don't know whether they still do that, but I remember it's just like you eat activated charcoal to absorb that. It's like that chemistry. We see that every day. And it's that intimidating factor coming from math, especially in general chemistry. Because the general chemistry involves, you start with math, and then if they don't like math, they think that this is not for us. It's like having a little bit of it's encouraging them you can learn math. You can apply math in chemistry. And I think learning math is about what Laura was telling about, training your brain, to think a little differently, and it takes time. It's like building muscles. Sometimes you're doing these lifting that the muscles that you have not used for a long time, or that you are not used to. You start with a smaller weight, and you build your weight. Education is like that. Chemistry is like that. It's helping them navigate through that is what's important, I think, in my opinion.
And Dr. Nayak, I think innovation in technology and medicine is something that we're all intimately, maybe we think we're more experts at it than we actually are. We'll say that. But as somebody who's in that field, who's welcoming a whole lot of innovation, actually, in the treatment of diabetes, as you were mentioning, what is that experience like in terms of inviting medical technology?
Well, as everybody knows, there's lots of companies making technology for medical technology all the time, like Medtronic is one of them, for example. Where physicians can be entrepreneurial with technology is by taking the latest technology that's available and incorporating it into patient care. Sometimes doctors can be a little averse to new technology or embracing it, but the most entrepreneurial physicians are going to be using that technology and tailoring it to the needs of their patients. So that happens with diabetes technology all the time, and it's life-changing technology. For example, this week, I learned that there's a new insulin pump and continuous glucose system that's available that will be life-changing for patients. And it's exciting for me to learn about it, but it's even more exciting for my patients. So it's really cool to be able to share that technology with people.
Yeah, how do you, as a physician, come up to speed on the new technology and be able to also then turn around and teach it to your patients?
Well, I just try to keep up to date with medical literature, and it's all on internet-based, and finding out about things as they come along as soon as they're FDA approved, and then once we can, starting to use it, so constant learning. Life is about constant learning.
Yeah, it's interesting because we often talk about the pathways that you took to become doctors in your professions, and this is a terminal degree. This is as far as you go. But we don't often think about the lifelong learning aspects and the ways that you will continue. And some of our career paths are really all about learning how to be learners. So I actually have some questions here. What always comes through my mind when we think about career paths is Dr. Noel Schultz saying, it's not really a ladder, it's a jungle gym. Sometimes we go up and over and we end up way over there. And I wonder about your pathways to your current profession and maybe where you think you might go next. So for any of you, what does that pathway look like? Did you end up where you thought you might be? Where are you at on your journey?
Well, I think it is. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I feel like our careers are always an evolution, right? So especially with the medical school pathway, it's a set journey usually, and it usually ends with practicing medicine. But I think we can use our knowledge for different things also. So the health equity work that I've been doing has been really something that I've gotten great gratification out of, and I hope to make a difference in the community and for people. So it's one of those things that I probably wouldn't have predicted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still in the middle of your journey. Mm-hmm. Yes, I like that.
Yeah, for me, chemistry was not my priority. Like, it was not where I wanted to do. I wanted to study math. Like, I was aiming for, in my undergraduate studies, I was aiming for being a math major. And then I realized, no, I like chemistry more. So I became a chemistry major. And then I wanted to be in the industry, like in the manager position, kind of like that, in Sri Lanka. And I did not get the job that I wanted to get. And then I was like, I'm going to apply to graduate school and see what happens. So it's like, it's the jungle. It's always like you decide something, and then it changes. And sometimes thinking that it's not the end of the world, to take a step back sometimes and think, what do you want to do next? And then, so I was in the graduate school, and then I wanted to teach, so I'm here. But right now I was thinking, like, maybe I want to start a little research group. Like, it's been a while that I have done that, so just to think about that. And I really like being an advisor. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a MESA advisor for the college, so it's just like advising underrepresented students, like who does not know their potential, like to help them learn that, there are so many opportunities in this country. It's about like changing your mindset a little, and then like just stepping outside your comfort zone to achieve your dreams. And then, as Dr. Nayak was telling, dreams can change all the time. It's like this is not the end. You think and then you can always like achieve something else. And it's like having that positive mindset, and then like giving the students that's like kind of like my next goal is, and then like think about the research project a little bit.
Yeah. I like this too. I like where you're going with this. And I appreciate that you set out with very different intentions and ended up somewhere fantastic. I was recently reading an article about, there was an interview with Fred Rogers' wife, Mr. Rogers, and they said, did he know where he was going? And she said, no, he never did, not to the very end. He didn't know where he was going, but he was willing to, put everything into those moments that he's in, and I appreciate that.
No, I'm sorry. Because Youre is Cougars, like from WSU, I'm forever grateful for my friend Mahindra, who taught me how to look up for the universities. Like, I remember, like, she took me, and then I was like, I did not get that job. I don't know what to do. I was a TA at that time. I was given a chance to be in a TA in the same university that I graduated for a year. I felt like that was a really great opportunity. So, like, until you land on your job, it gives you a little option, like, this is something that you can consider doing. And I still remember her taking me to the computer lab. She's like, this is how you use Google. This is how you search for the universities. And and then I remember she was telling me, like, they give you money to go to college there. So you don't have to pay for anything. And that was a huge factor coming from a developing country, like thinking about like college is expensive. Like, how do I find money to go to grad school? So that was another thing that I tell my students, like grad school, like if you can find an internship, that's free. Like, you can go to school. Yeah.
You make a really good point, and I think too many young people don't have, it's a nervous thing to go and ask and feel like you don't have the orientation or the culture or the basic, to say, I don't know how to look for a university isn't something that students feel comfortable doing. But when you talk to teachers and mentors and scientists, anyone would be willing to sit down and tell you, here's where you start. So that is a thing, that knock on doors, go to office hours, and ask those questions. Because I think that your scientist at WSU is probably not alone. Many people would be willing to sit down and show you how to carve out that pathway.
Yeah.
Dr. Levine, how about you? How about your path?
Yeah, my path was crazy. I was a chemistry major, and then the biology professor was jumping up and down saying, pick biology, pick biology. So I picked biology because the chemistry professor was really boring and not very interesting, although chemistry is interesting. So I picked biology, and I was going to be a marine invertebrate zoologist, and I was going to work at a marine lab and teach students. It was going to be terrific. And so I went from a small state school in South Carolina to my grad school was in zoology at Clemson, where I did work on marine biology, and it was meh.
Oh, no.
But I love teaching, so I was like, okay, I know I want to stay in grad school, but I'm not sure that this project is what I want to do. And so then I gave myself another chance, and I went to Kentucky to work on cockroaches, which seems strange. You go from like really charismatic marine biology to sort of cockroaches that can reproduce without having sex, which is pretty strange. But that's what I got my love for entomology. And got my love for entomology and really discovered this whole different perspective on life sciences. So I was always going to be in the professor track, although the whole time I was sort of like, well, maybe I should do this, or maybe I should do that, and I had the good fortune. And so in my travels and in my life, what I've always done and what I continue to do is collect stories, which is why this event is so fascinating for me too. You collect stories and you find out what other people do, and you're sort of like, how did you get here, and how did you get there? I've never been shy about asking people about their journeys, which I think actually is somewhat unique. So you have the skill too. But finding out how people do things and just sort of mulling it over. And so it was many of the faculty that I know, they got to their job, they got to their path because someone cared about them. And someone said, what are you doing? Just like you said, what are you doing? And how can I help you? Or are you sure that this is the right thing for you? And did you know X, Y, and Z? And there's such a huge variety of choices when you're an undergraduate. A lot of people don't know about entomology as a potential career. They think med school. And then they're not loving the med school track, and so they're kind of looking around, they're taking other classes, and they're like, well, I'll take this weird entomology class. And then all of a sudden, this whole new world opens up to them. So I definitely had sort of the creative, make your own way path. But I became an entomologist around 1996, and I've never looked back. It's just been full speed ahead. And now, in my role as department chair, I definitely am interested in changing policies and making higher education a more inclusive environment, making it a great place for students to have opportunities. So I'm interested in leadership roles. You know, I'm actively pursuing that. And anyway.
I love that journey for you so much because I have seen the magic that you work in your lab and the rapport in the community and the way that they all love bugs. And that is, you know, an anthem. It is not, you know, exactly, yes, we love bugs. So I think, I hope that that's part of your next chapter is making that contagious, because there is something that is so inclusive about that space that you've created. And I think it's empowering to think about those kinds of changes that could be, you know, transformational for this field.
Well, 100% when you work in entomology, so here's my entomology plug. So when you're an entomologist, overall, 60% of all life on Earth is some kind of insect or arthropod.
60?
Yeah, at least. At least. I could be exaggerating, but I don't think I am. And so anything you can think of, an insect or an arthropod has done it. They live in the ocean. They're delicious. They're disgusting. They stink when you squish them. They're eating all your plants. They're eating all your clothes. The Alien movie is based on a parasitoid insect life history. I don't know if you knew that. So, so that's one of the reasons that I love entomology. Anything you can think of is there. And so diversity of thought, inclusive environment of belonging, I mean, it's sort of hand in hand.
Yes, you might have a few interested students out there, I think, now.
Yeah, good pitch.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so then the last question that I have, and then I want to remind folks to send us some questions on thementi.com, because we would love to take some of your questions as well. But I have a question here that is, you know, what are some of the places that are harder in your roles currently? Where do you still struggle and need to have a little bit of persistence, or maybe just a little bit of self-talk to get yourself to, you know, to the table? Because it's not all sunshine, but you have to have had some moments where you've got to still have some persistence and some grit.
One of the things about being a scholar and a professor is that you're expected to write publications. You're expected to write publications for peer review, and you also are expected to write proposals for grant support to fund your research. And so if you do things that cost money, then you need grant support to do that in the university system. So writing proposals and writing publications can be really difficult, even at somebody at my level, because every single time you do that, you're putting yourself out there. You're really putting yourself out there. You're putting your ideas out there. These are your ideas. These are things that you are really invested in, and you want people to like what you've written. You want people to understand what you've done. You want people to be excited about what you've done, and you want people to want you to keep doing it. So that can be really, really hard. At the same time that it's part of the job, it's still it can be very challenging, even for people like me who love to talk and like to write. It's a vulnerable place.
I think, you know, some of the daily struggles with practicing medicine is that there's a lot of paperwork involved, and that takes a lot of time from authorizing medications or treatments. So that's always a struggle. You know, that takes time away from actually taking care of patients. And then otherwise, I would say just that aspect of, you know, as a woman in science, you know, continuing to believe in yourself. You know, you're always plagued by insecurity, I think, your whole life. But it's important to have strong colleagues and a support system. And I'm happy to have especially the other women in science who support me. And that's always been, I've always been very grateful for that.
It helps to have a good community. Yeah.
Yeah, that support system is important. Like for me, the biggest struggle is sometimes getting through your grading pile. Like sometimes it's just like, it just gets piled up so fast, the lab reports. And then I personally don't like to give questions where they still has to like answer just one tiny thing that a program will automatically grade them, because I want to know that thought process. I want to see their work. I want them to write them down sometimes, like, this is how you came to that conclusion, or this is how you came to that answer. So like time commitment that comes with that, it's the one that struggles the most. That's what kind of restricts myself from getting into a little bit of research. Is for me, it's always like I need to sit down and then find time to write this thing, to like compose my idea, and then to present it to someone, and then get all the materials that's ready to start it. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, so the fast question that comes to mind, if I was to say, I wish I had more time for blank, what would be the more time for blank?
For me?
Sure, yeah.
I wish I had more time to spend with my kid, really.
Yeah.
He told me yesterday, you need a, what did he say, break day or something like that. He said, like, to play with him. Because I felt really bad. So I said, okay, Saturday, okay, it's going to be my break day then. I will play with you. And then I forgot about that. And then I planned to, like, I'm going to wash my car or something like that. And he reminded me, Mama, it's your break day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like sometimes you take, like, your job and other things take so much of your time, and you have to, it's hard to always find that balance. Like, at least for me, yeah.
I can relate to that one, yeah.
I wish I had more time to read. I actually was an English major as well as a biology major in undergraduate, and love that. But I never have enough time to just read for fun.
Yeah, read for fun is a big one.
Yes.
I wish I had more time at work to the luxury for time to think, to read, to really be the scholar. That's something that you kind of lose sight of because you're balancing many different things. You know, for me, I like all aspects of the job, so it's hard to sort of focus on one thing or another, so I've had to really learn time management skills. For a few years, I'm going to focus on teaching pedagogy, and for a few years, I'm going to really invest in research, and then I can pull back a little bit and I can do some administration. And the pandemic really stopped a lot of that balancing act, so that you sort of have to rush from emergency to emergency, crisis to crisis, update to update, and people need to see you and talk to you and ask you questions. So having the luxury, I consider it a luxury, to be that sort of scholar professor that we all kind of dream of. You know, in the back of our minds, many of us, particularly entomologists, we're wearing our hiking boots and we're trooping around with our insect net, and we're just, you know, in nature, and that is really, we spend almost no time doing that anymore. But that luxury to really think.
Yeah. We all need more time for planning and thinking. Yeah. We have this question. The questions are really coming in. Thank you for sending your questions. We probably don't have time to get to all of them, but we'll get to as many as we can. But there's one here. You all have opportunities to mentor students, whether they're medical students or graduate students or undergrads. And sometimes we think that we are pouring into them, but really they are impacting us. So this question is so insightful because it says, is there a student or a mentee that has impacted the way you mentor or help other people?
I have a lot of students that had helped me to change the way I teach. Like, it's just like, it's that, because not all of them learn the same way. It's like they have different ways of learning. Some of them are virtual learners, like they have to, like they're visual learners. They have to like see the things or the problems. How do you break down the problems? So there are a lot of students who help me in that way, like to change things in a way. And then when I was in the grad school, like there was an undergraduate student who was like really motivated to work, and then like was always on time, always in the lab, like doing this stuff. And then he kind of motivated me, like impacted in a way that, okay, maybe I need to step up my game, and then like to graduate sooner or get the research done, and then like, I don't know, motivate me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely, I mean, when you consider that I was an undergraduate over 30 years ago, I learned from my students nonstop. We have workshops on what to expect from this generation and what to expect from that generation, but nothing can beat the sort of one-on-one interactions. I'm constantly learning from my students. I hold equity, inclusion, and diversity close to my heart, but some of the implementation of that is just fascinating for me to see what this next generation, how they're handling that, and I learn from them, particularly in that arena. And also some of the ways of learning that you mentioned. I think that our teaching toolkit needs to be expanded, and it's very exciting to see that lecture hits a certain group and online learning hits another group and hands-on learning hits many, and how you mix and mingle those things to really, you need student feedback. It's not like there's that image of you unzip the head of the professor and all the knowledge is just transferred into the head of the student. It's never, ever like that. Mm-hmm. You've got to know where they are. So I think it's it's sort of a constant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that, with it's always great to interact with youth, and they bring so much energy. So I enjoy when medical students do rotate with me. But like you were saying, their perspective on things is so refreshing sometimes, and it's fun to work with young people like that.
It's a natural follow-on. So I have this question that came in, and sometimes students have a fund of knowledge prior to getting there, or they have just a unique life experience, and so customizing how you're doing it. So this student is saying that they're a first-generation college-going student and looking at the STEM career. What advice could you give me?
So at Washington State University, we actually have an office for first-generation students, and many of the faculty have, myself included, we have stickers on our doors, or we mention in our syllabus, or we mention first day of class, or we mention here and there that we're first-generation, and take advantage of professors who call that out and go and speak with them, look and see what kinds of resources might be available at the school that you're at or the school that you're planning to go to. There are many faculty who are first generation who are excited to help mentor students who don't know how to navigate and don't understand what the things are. But it shouldn't be a barrier, 100%. You shouldn't be ashamed of it, and you should let people know so that they can then sort of guess things that you might not know. If you don't know it, then you might not know to ask it. And so you need those kinds of guardrails to help you be successful.
And then the big change that I felt when I started teaching here was when I was a TA at University of Nevada, Reno. It was like a typical university. So all the freshmen were in the late teens, and then they stayed in the dorm. They come to the classes, they come to the lab, they went back, and they were living the typical university life. Versus here, you get a very diverse set of population. Like some of the folks are coming back to schools, then we have the Running Start students, and then you have typical students who have completed high school and then starting college. So no matter where you are all going to have your little challenges. It could be for generational, it could be a language barrier, it could be other things that you are dealing with, but like most of the campuses have a lot of resources, and it's about talking with somebody. It takes a lot of courage to go and then talk with someone and let that know. Like for here, I think we have the MESA program is the easiest place to like step in and then talk. And then just like asking that. And as Laura was mentioning, like you might not know what you are missing out. Like it's about asking that so we can help you to go to the next level. Yeah.
Well, and one thing I forgot to mention is that peer mentoring and mutual mentoring can also be really important for first generation students. I mean, I was saying before that I like to collect stories, and honestly, I learned as much from my peers, and I had as much motivation and inspiration from my peers as I had from professors to go forward.
Yeah, we have a question here that is, specifically asking from a parent perspective too. Is there any advice that you would offer to parents who are trying to support students who maybe don't know how to navigate the?
Well, I think I can give some advice. I have 3 teenagers at home.
Right.
One thing, especially for all youth, there's so many jobs out there in STEM fields, and I highly encourage all youth to go into a STEM field because we need people to solve the problems that are going to continue to exist. We need people in science, we need people in technology and in engineering and in medicine. So please go into a STEM field. That's my push for that. And especially for young women, I would say, it's important to reassure the young women in your life that they are good at math, that they are good at science. I think young women often feel that they're just not that good at those fields, so inspiring confidence in young women is important. And also, a lot of young women feel that they don't fit in. They might go to their tech class or their computer science class and see that 90% of the kids there are boys. So it's important to reassure them that that's okay, that you can still do this even if you may not see a lot of girls in your class right now. When you get to college and beyond, that's going to be a lot different. So that's another thing that I would emphasize for young women thinking about STEM fields, and then role models. Having good role models is important. We have a lot of great role models, a lot of women in science who are excellent role models to students here in Wenatchee also. That's so important. And a shout out to Foothills Middle School girls who code, keep coding. And they have an excellent mentor, Bridget Wiegand. So we need to continue to encourage mentors for all teachers to encourage youth to pursue STEM fields.
I appreciate that. You had so many really insightful nuggets in there. But I think what stuck out to me too is just that normalcy of the uncertainty, and then knowing that this part isn't forever. The feeling of that uncertainty. And the more we can normalize that for young people, the better off they will be. This is a part of the journey and only a part.
Well, and I think that one other thing that I was thinking of is that parents should check their own bias. Make sure that you're commenting positively about women that you see in STEM roles. Make sure that you're commenting positively about your kids' interest, male or female children's interest in STEM fields. That you're not just offhandedly. One of the things we see in entomology is that elementary school kids love bugs, but their parents on museum tours, their parents hate bugs, and they really learn the behavior from their parents. And so middle school kids have a tendency to be more hateful towards bugs, but little kids love bugs. And so we think it's a societal pressure that kids experience. And they're learning it from their parents and the adults around them. I mean, a lot of elementary school teachers also hate bugs. So check yourself when you're.
That's really wise. All right, Dr. Hawaii, you get the last word. We have just a minute or so left. What advice do you have for?
Well, it's about like knowing that you can do this. It's having that positive attitude and not getting pressured what other people are thinking or what other people are doing. Like if you want to do STEM, you do STEM. It's simple as that. And then you can find support systems. You just have to go and just look for it a little bit. But you can definitely get a career in STEM and then be successful in STEM. So it's for anybody, yeah.
Believing in yourself. Well, thank you. This has been I cannot believe how fast this hour goes, because I could spend another hour just hearing your stories and your insight. But I appreciate that you took time today, and to the students and the educators and the community members who are listening in, we do just appreciate the space and the time to think about how to support young people in this journey.
Thank you, Dr. Kane. What a fantastic event. Congratulations to all, and thank you to all that are attending this event, both in presence and online. Especially want to thank our wonderful panelists who have shared their experience, their knowledge, their passion for STEM and women in technology. My name is Gustavo Montoya from AgTools. I'm the CTO, and our company is a data sciences and data analytics company for the supply chain in the ag industry. Our CEO and founder is a woman and a woman in tech, and we embrace STEM and women in technology for two very important reasons. On the personal level, we're both siblings of parents and educators. The story goes that our mother, almost 50 years ago, was the one who changed the digital format of doing reporting cards that were done by hand by teachers into a digital format and becoming it automated. So in the middle school, I grew up seeing my mother directing user interface 50 years ago with an engineer that would work at night. And that changed in many ways and inspired us. So we are a product of women in technology ourselves. So it's important to consider that not only we have great panelists here and many more women who have become doctorates and pursued high education careers, but we want to embrace all women and girls into STEM, regardless of the level that they want to participate. On the professional level, we believe that a diverse workforce will provide a strong view of many different angles to problem solving into our communities. And by adding more folks into these boards and committees can bring many different angles and solutions and innovations to be represented by the many people in our communities. So I challenge you today to embrace and congratulate any girl or woman for the special day that it is, Women in Technology